Hi there, and welcome to another little Shedlet. And you may remember on a previous occasion, I was talking about regret and how pointless regret can be in our lives. And following that, I had a couple of conversations through messaging with people about this and particularly about guilt. And I thought this would be a really good way to continue the conversation, to talk about this whole thing, and especially the business of forgiving ourselves, because that's the hardest thing, right? Sometimes it can be a doddle to forgive other people, but really, really difficult to be kind enough to ourselves to grant ourselves that forgiveness. And there may be lots of reasons for this. I think sometimes it's embarrassment about the stuff that we've said or done, and especially the way we think that people now look at us as a result. Perhaps it's because we're aware that there's still continuing pain or discomfort with people because of what we've done. Maybe even we feel the need to be punished a little bit more. It's surprising how many people I have encountered who experience something like that. And I think sometimes we maybe make the mistake of equating forgiveness with forgetting or condoning. So we think that forgiving ourselves is a way of excusing what we've done. But I don't think that's really how it necessarily is at all. I think that refusing to forgive ourselves is really a way of putting our life on hold. Refusing to forgive ourselves is a refusal to live fully, because it's impossible to live wholly or properly in the moment when we're preoccupied with these rumbling feelings of guilt. It's also not very good for our health, for our mental and emotional well-being. And I think far too many people live like this. Far too many people carry about guilt feelings, not necessarily about massive things, but nevertheless, guilty feelings that undermine or eat away at people's confidence. Which is why most Sundays in services at St Luke's, when I was the vicar there, I would include some form of words of forgiveness that said something like, "For all the ways in which we have failed to be the people that we most long to be deep down, God forgives us. Forgive yourself. Forgive others." And these words, became so sort of embedded in the life and spiritual culture of St Luke's that people really valued them a great deal. So much so that when we decided at one point that we were going to reopen the South Aisle, which had been walled off for many years, and we decided we were going to pull that wall down, the Sunday before the demolition took place, we gave out a load of markers to people, invited them to write on the wall, to graffiti things that they felt about St Luke's. The kids loved it. It was so naughty. And lots of wonderful things were there. Included with it was this. Somebody wrote these words rather poetically: "This quiet grace, the tightness at the back of the throat, the familiar words, friends, God forgives you. Forgive yourselves. Forgive others." But look what they wrote in brackets at the side. "But can it be possible? All the brokenness that I know myself to be." Wow, that was quite an eye-opener, and I don't know who wrote it, but I think the hardest thing, is when we're feeling guilty about something that we can no longer really resolve because the person involved is now no longer with us. They've died. But, I've found it still can be very, very helpful to voice our apology or our feeling of regret to that person in some way. I happen to believe that we can still communicate with people who are not with us. But, I've led lots of people to do this over the years, sometimes with remarkable effect. There's a story in this book called How to Be a Bad Christian. You might have heard of it. There's a story I tell here about Sarah. Sarah's dad had died, and I went to meet with the family to arrange the funeral. And as I sat in her living room with her two sisters and their brother, I sensed that Sarah's grief carried some additional burden. With a little prompting, she confessed to a great rift with her dad, which she had not found the time to address before he died. And as with many families, the source of the squabble was embarrassingly trivial, but nonetheless real in its very important effect upon her. After chatting for 10 minutes and encouraging Sarah not to beat herself up about it, I left my seat. I knelt in front of her, surrounded by the family. I took her hands and looked her full in the eye and said, "Sarah, God forgives you. I believe your dad forgives you. Forgive yourself." Well, the whole room was in tears, including her brother, who then lightened the atmosphere by saying, "Wow, Dave, you should do this for a living." Cheeky thing. And later I suggested to Sarah that she might like to write a letter to her dad saying exactly how she felt. Maybe then sit alone somewhere in a room and read it out loud to him. But then, importantly, to burn the letter or destroy it in some way. And I'd say never ever keep the letter if you do something like that, because it'll always be there. It'll always tend to haunt you. Get rid of it. That's the thing to do. And some weeks after the funeral, I met Sarah walking down the street, and she said that she'd done what I'd said and was amazed at how much better she now felt about it. Well, I've said it before, unresolved feelings of guilt are among the most pointless and the most undermining human emotions that we can experience. So listen, guys, forgive yourself, forgive others. You are forgiven. Trust me, I'm a vicar at large.